Bang! The gavel slams down. Ma'am, you will respect this court. Judge Frank Caprio's voice cuts through the chaos. The woman's mouth drops open. Complete silence. Her lawyer frantically tugs at her sleeve. Too late. She just sealed her fate with 7 words that will haunt her forever. What happened next would become the most viral courtroom moment in internet history. Rewind to 30 minutes earlier. Providence Municipal Court, Rhode Island. Camera crews rolling for. Caught in Providence. Just another traffic violation case. Or so everyone thought. The defendant, Karen Mitchell, 42, from East Greenwich. Parking ticket. $50. Should have been simple. But Karen had other plans. Your Honor, she began, already rolling her eyes before Judge Caprio could speak. This whole thing is ridiculous. I was only parked there for like 2 minutes. Judge Caprio, with his trademark gentle smile, reviewed the citation. Ms. Mitchell, according to the officer's report, your vehicle was in a handicapped space for 23 minutes. Without a permit. But Karen had no idea she was about to challenge the wrong judge on the wrong day. 23 minutes? That's impossible. Karen's voice rose, sharp and dismissive. These meter maids don't know what they're talking about. They just want to make money off honest people. The courtroom stirred. Judge Caprio had been dealing with traffic violations for decades. He'd seen every excuse, every attitude, every attempt at manipulation. But something in Karen's tone set this case apart. Ma'am, Judge Caprio said calmly, the officer has photographic evidence with timestamps. Would you like to see them? I don't need to see anything. Karen snapped, crossing her arms defiantly. This is harassment, plain and simple. I know my rights. What Karen didn't know was that Judge Caprio had been having one of those days. Earlier that morning, he dealt with a heartbreaking case involving a disabled veteran who couldn't afford his parking fines. The judge had waived the fees and personally helped arrange transportation for the man's medical appointments. The contrast between genuine hardship and entitled attitude was about to create television gold. Ms. Mitchell, Judge Caprio continued, his patience already wearing thin. The handicapped space you occupied is reserved for people with mobility challenges. It's not a matter of convenience. Oh please, Karen scoffed, actually laughing in the judge's face. Those spaces are everywhere. One less spot for 5 minutes isn't going to hurt anyone. The courtroom gasped. Court officers exchanged glances. Even Karen's own lawyer looked mortified. But Judge Caprio wasn't finished gathering evidence of her character. Ma'am, I want to make sure I understand your position. You believe that handicapped parking spaces are optional? I believe they're overdone, Karen replied, doubling down. Half the people who use them aren't even that disabled. It's all about getting special treatment. The silence that followed was deafening. Judge Caprio removed his glasses, cleaned them slowly, and put them back on. Anyone who knew him recognized this gesture. Storm incoming. Ms. Mitchell, in your opinion, what constitutes being disabled enough to use these spaces? Karen was about to make the fatal mistake that would destroy her credibility forever. Well, if you can walk to your car, you can walk an extra 50 feet to a regular space. I mean, come on, most of these people are just lazy. The courtroom erupted in murmurs. Judge Caprio raised his hand for silence. His expression had changed completely. The grandfatherly warmth was gone, replaced by something much more serious. Ms. Mitchell, do you see that woman in the front row? Karen turned to look. An elderly woman in a wheelchair, visiting court with her grandson for his case. That woman lost both legs serving our country in Afghanistan. According to your logic, she should park further away because she can, what exactly? But Karen was too deep in her hole to stop digging. That's different. Karen stammered, but her arrogance wouldn't let her back down completely. I'm talking about people who just have minor issues and want special treatment. Judge Caprio leaned forward. And you determined in your expert medical opinion that no one in that parking area on Tuesday morning deserved accommodation? I'm just saying what everyone thinks. Karen replied, her voice getting shriller. These people milk the system. Subscribe now and comment what you think about this confrontation, because what Judge Caprio does next will completely change how you view justice in America. Judge Caprio stood up slowly. In 40 years on the bench, he never encountered such blatant disrespect for people with disabilities. The cameras caught every nuance of his expression as he processed Karen's words. Ms. Mitchell, you mentioned that you know your rights. Let me tell you about some of the rights. The right of disabled individuals to equal access. The right of veterans who sacrifice their bodies for this country to park near the buildings they need to enter. Karen shifted uncomfortably, finally sensing she might be in trouble. Your Honor, I didn't mean. Oh, but you did mean it. Judge Caprio interrupted, his voice gaining power. You meant every word. And now let me tell you what's going to happen. But nobody in that courtroom was prepared for what came next. Ms. Mitchell, your fine for parking in a handicapped space illegally is $50. However, your demonstration of contempt for disabled individuals has earned you something else entirely. Karen's lawyer frantically whispered in her ear, trying to get her to apologize, but Karen was too proud to back down. I have the right to express my opinion, she declared defiantly. Indeed you do, Judge Caprio agreed. And I have the right to respond appropriately. The judge picked up his gavel, paused for dramatic effect, and delivered the blow that would make headlines worldwide. Ms. Mitchell, you are hereby sentenced to 100 hours of community service at the Veterans Administration Medical Center, specifically assisting patients with mobility challenges. The courtroom exploded. Karen's mouth fell open in shock. You can't do that. That's not legal. Actually, ma'am, it is completely legal. Community service for showing contempt of court and demonstrating a clear need for education about disability rights. But Judge Caprio wasn't finished. Furthermore, he continued, his voice carrying the weight of decades of judicial experience. You will write a 5,000-word essay on the Americans with Disabilities Act and present it to this court in 30 days. Karen finally realized the gravity of her situation. Your Honor, please, I didn't mean to. Ms. Mitchell, you had multiple opportunities to show respect and humility. Instead, you chose arrogance and discrimination. This court will not tolerate prejudice against our most vulnerable citizens. The moment that would define her forever was about to arrive. Karen, in a last desperate attempt to save face, made the mistake that sealed her viral infamy. This is ridiculous. You're just some old judge who doesn't understand how the real world works. The gavel came down with thunderous force. Bang! Ms. Mitchell, you will respect this court. That outburst just cost you an additional 50 hours of community service and a $500 fine for contempt of court. Complete silence. Karen's face went white as she realized what she had just done. But Judge Caprio had one final lesson to deliver. Ma'am, let me tell you about the real world. In the real world, respect is earned through compassion, not demanded through entitlement. In the real world, we protect those who cannot protect themselves. Judge Caprio gestured toward the veteran in the wheelchair. That woman understands sacrifice, service, and humility. Perhaps during your community service, you'll learn what those words actually mean. Karen finally broke down, tears streaming down her face as the full weight of her situation hit her. Your Honor, please, I'm sorry, I didn't think. That, Ms. Mitchell, is precisely the problem. You didn't think. You didn't think about the veteran who needs that parking space for her medical appointments. You didn't think about the elderly gentleman with a heart condition who can't walk long distances. You only thought about yourself. What happened next shocked everyone, including Judge Caprio. Karen fell to her knees in the courtroom, sobbing uncontrollably. Please, Your Honor, I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. I didn't realize. I never thought about it that way. The courtroom watched in stunned silence as this woman who had been so arrogant minutes before completely broke down in front of everyone. Judge Caprio looked at her for a long moment, then spoke quietly. Ms. Mitchell, that display of remorse might be genuine, but it came only after you faced consequences. True character is shown when no one is watching, not when cameras are rolling. But then Judge Caprio did something that reminded everyone why he's called America's favorite judge. However, he continued, this court believes in redemption as much as justice. Complete your community service with genuine commitment to learning and growth, and I'll consider reducing the additional penalties. Karen looked up through her tears, nodding frantically. Yes, Your Honor. I promise. I'll do better. I'll learn. Judge Caprio leaned forward, his voice carrying both authority and compassion. Ms. Mitchell, I hope you understand that privilege is not a right to take what others need. It's a responsibility to ensure everyone has what they need. The aftermath was immediate and overwhelming. Within hours, the video had gone viral across every social media platform. #RespectTheJudge and #InstantJustice became trending topics worldwide. The footage accumulated over 50 million views in the first week. Comments poured in from around the globe. Finally, someone stands up for disabled people. Judge Caprio is a national treasure. That woman got exactly what she deserved. But the real impact was felt in the disability community. Veterans organizations shared the video with messages of gratitude. Disability rights advocates used it as an educational tool. The video became a symbol of standing up against everyday discrimination that many face in silence. Dr. Sarah Martinez, director of the Rhode Island Disability Rights Center, commented, Judge Caprio didn't just address one woman's parking violation. He addressed a systemic attitude that treats disabled people as less deserving of basic accommodations. 3 months later, the transformation was remarkable. Karen Mitchell completed her community service at the VA Medical Center. According to staff reports, she had indeed undergone a genuine transformation. She began volunteering additional hours beyond her requirement, helping veterans navigate the facility and advocating for better accessibility features. In her essay presented to the court, Karen wrote, I realized that my convenience was never worth more than someone else's necessity. Judge Caprio didn't just punish me, he educated me about empathy I never knew I lacked. But perhaps the most powerful moment came during her final court appearance. Karen returned to Providence Municipal Court to present her essay. Judge Caprio read it carefully, then looked up at her. Ms. Mitchell, what did you learn during your service? Your Honor, I learned that disability doesn't mean inability. I met veterans who accomplished more in wheelchairs than I ever did on 2 legs. I learned that accessibility isn't special treatment, it's basic human dignity. Judge Caprio smiled, the warm grandfatherly expression returning to his face. Ms. Mitchell, you've demonstrated genuine growth. Your additional penalties are hereby dismissed. Share this video if you believe in justice that educates rather than just punishes, and subscribe to see more moments when respect and humanity triumph over arrogance and entitlement. As Karen left the courtroom that final day, she stopped to speak with the veteran who had been present during her original hearing. The conversation lasted 20 minutes, ending with an exchange of contact information and a promise to continue advocating for veterans' rights. The viral video had sparked a nationwide conversation about disability rights, parking enforcement, and the power of judicial wisdom. Judge Caprio received thousands of letters from people sharing their own experiences with discrimination and thanking him for taking a stand. But for Judge Caprio, it was just another day of doing what he'd always done, using his position to teach lessons that extend far beyond traffic violations. In his evening reflection, Judge Caprio noted in his personal journal, Today reminded me why I became a judge. Not to punish, but to educate. Not to condemn, but to transform. Karen Mitchell left my courtroom a different person than when she entered. That's justice. The case of Karen Mitchell versus her own prejudices had ended not with destruction, but with reconstruction. One woman's moment of shame became a teachable moment for millions, proving that even the most viral moments of justice can lead to genuine human growth. And in Providence Municipal Court, Judge Frank Caprio continued his daily work of turning traffic violations into life lessons, one case at a time. But the ripple effects of that single courtroom exchange would continue for years to come. 6 months after the viral video, Providence Municipal Court received an unprecedented request from the Department of Justice. They wanted to use Judge Caprio's handling of the Karen Mitchell case as a training example for federal judges dealing with disability discrimination cases. This represents the gold standard for addressing prejudice in real time while maintaining judicial dignity, wrote Assistant Attorney General Rebecca Thompson in her formal request. Judge Caprio demonstrated how courts can be both corrective and educational. The request was unprecedented in American legal history. Never before had a municipal traffic court case been elevated to federal training material. Meanwhile, Karen Mitchell's transformation had become a case study itself. Dr. Patricia Williams, a behavioral psychologist at Brown University, had been following Karen's journey through her community service. With Karen's permission, Dr. Williams documented the process as part of a larger study on prejudice reduction through experiential learning. What we observed was remarkable, Dr. Williams explained in her published research. Karen didn't just learn about disability rights academically. She experienced the daily challenges firsthand by working alongside people she had previously dismissed. The study would later be published in the Journal of Applied Social Psychology under the title, Judicial Intervention in Prejudice Reduction, the Caprio Method. But perhaps the most unexpected development came from the veteran community itself. Margaret Santos, the wheelchair-bound veteran who had been present during Karen's original hearing, had formed an unlikely friendship with her former antagonist. Together, they founded the Rolling Forward Initiative, a non-profit organization focused on improving accessibility in Rhode Island businesses. Karen sees barriers now that she was blind to before, Margaret explained during a joint interview on CNN. When someone has genuinely learned from their mistakes, they become the most effective advocates for change. The organization had already secured accessibility improvements in over 200 local businesses within their first year of operation. The legal community had taken notice as well. Harvard Law School invited Judge Caprio to deliver the annual Oliver Wendell Holmes Lecture, focusing on restorative justice in everyday courts. The lecture hall was packed with students, professors, and practicing attorneys eager to understand his approach. Law school teaches us statutes and precedents, Judge Caprio told the assembled crowd. But it rarely teaches us how to change hearts and minds. That woman didn't need legal citations, she needed empathy education. The lecture was streamed live and viewed by over 300,000 people, including judges from around the world seeking to understand his methodology. Television networks began requesting interviews and documentaries. 60 Minutes produced a segment titled, "The Judge Who Goes Viral for All the Right Reasons," examining how Judge Caprio's courtroom had become a cultural phenomenon. The piece featured interviews with dozens of defendants whose lives had been changed by their encounters with his unique brand of justice. "He doesn't just process cases," explained former defendant Michael Torres, who had appeared before Judge Caprio for driving without insurance. "He processes people. He sees the human being behind the violation." Michael had gone on to become a paralegal after Judge Caprio helped him understand the importance of legal compliance and connected him with educational resources. International attention followed as well. The BBC produced a documentary called American Justice, The Providence Method, examining how one judge's approach to minor infractions was influencing judicial thinking globally. Courts in the UK, Canada, and Australia began implementing similar restorative approaches to traffic violations. Judge Patricia Morrison from the Manchester Magistrates' Court in England commented, "Judge Caprio has shown us that every court appearance is an opportunity for education and growth. We've begun adopting similar techniques with remarkable results." The impact on legal education was equally significant. Law schools across America began incorporating Judge Caprio's cases into their curricula. The University of Rhode Island School of Law created an entire course called Compassionate Jurisprudence, based on his methods. Professor James Mitchell, no relation to Karen, who taught the course, explained, "Traditional legal education focuses on adversarial approaches. Judge Caprio demonstrates collaborative justice, how to achieve legal compliance through understanding rather than intimidation." Students in the program were required to observe sessions in Providence Municipal Court and write analyses of Judge Caprio's techniques. But the most profound changes were happening in communities across America. Inspired by the viral video, other judges began adopting similar approaches. Judge Maria Rodriguez in Houston started offering community service options for traffic violations. Judge Robert Chin in San Francisco implemented educational components for parking violations in disability spaces. The Caprio effect, as legal scholars began calling it, was spreading throughout the American judicial system. Meanwhile, back in Providence, the daily impact continued. Judge Caprio's courtroom had become a pilgrimage site for legal professionals, social workers, and advocates. The city had to implement a reservation system for court observers due to overwhelming demand. "We've had judges visit from Japan, Germany, and South Africa," explained Court Administrator Linda Park. "They all want to understand how Judge Caprio transforms routine violations into teachable moments." The economic impact on Providence was unexpected but significant. Hotels reported increased bookings from legal professionals attending court sessions. Local restaurants near the courthouse saw business boom from visitors wanting to discuss what they had witnessed. The disability rights community had embraced Judge Caprio as an unlikely champion. The National Organization on Disability presented him with their annual Justice Award, the first time a municipal judge had received the honor. In his acceptance speech, Judge Caprio deflected credit to the defendants who had chosen to learn and grow from their experiences. "I didn't change Karen Mitchell," he said during the ceremony. "She chose to change herself when presented with information she had never truly considered. My role was simply to create the environment where that growth could occur." Technology companies began reaching out as well. Accessibility advocates convinced major tech companies to use the Karen Mitchell case in their employee training programs. Google, Microsoft, and Apple all incorporated the video into their diversity and inclusion curricula. When employees see real consequences for dismissive attitudes toward disability, it changes workplace culture, explained Dr. Sarah Kim, Director of Inclusion at Microsoft. Judge Caprio's handling of that case gives us a concrete example of accountability in action. Publishers wanted to document the phenomenon. 3 major publishing houses approached Judge Caprio about writing a book on his judicial philosophy. He eventually chose to work with a smaller publisher specializing in social justice topics, wanting to ensure the focus remained on the principles rather than his personality. The book, titled "Gavels and Grace: Lessons from the Bench," became a bestseller in the legal and social work communities. All proceeds were donated to disability advocacy organizations. Academic conferences began featuring Caprio panels. The American Bar Association added a standing session on restorative traffic justice to their annual conference. The National Association of Women Judges created a workshop series based on his techniques. Law enforcement training academies began showing his videos to teach officers about dignified interaction with the public. And tomorrow, as always, Providence Municipal Court would open its doors to new cases, new people, and new opportunities for justice, education, and human transformation. The gavel would fall again, but its sound would carry the echo of lessons learned, lives changed, and communities strengthened by the simple belief that people can be better than their mistakes when given the chance to understand and grow.